Installing an IKEA kitchen cabinet system can definitely be a DIY project. If you're brave enough, it will save you tons of money, but it does require some effort on your part. The most important step of this project is preparation you do before you mount anything on the wall. By this point, all your cabinets should be assembled and ready for installation. If you need help assembling cabinets, we have some links to videos in the description below that'll give you the confidence you need to do it yourself. The IKEA cabinet system uses rails for hanging cabinets. So let's take a moment and go over how to prepare for the rail installation, because everything literally hinges on this step. Before we mount the rails on the wall, we need to figure out a few things. If you're installing cabinets up to the ceiling, we recommend starting with the upper cabinets in the corner as we did. It's easier to mount them when there aren't any base cabinets in the way. If your upper cabinets do not extend all the way to the ceiling, begin with the corner base cabinets and work your way up to achieve the proper height between the cabinets, which instructions recommend to be at least 18 inches between the top and bottom. If you have a galley kitchen, start with the sink base cabinet and center it under a window and work your way out from there. If you're not sure where to start in your kitchen, reference the installation plan from your specific IKEA kitchen install. Because in our case, the upper cabinets hook into the rail so close to the ceiling during installation, we need to make sure we have just the right amount of clearance to be able to hang the cabinet, but not so much that it creates a large gap between the ceiling and the top of the cabinet. To do that, we locate the ceiling's lowest point and start all of our measurements from there in order to determine the height between the ceiling and the rail. The easiest way to do that is using a laser level to measure multiple points along the cabinet wall from the laser line to the ceiling. If you don't have a laser level, get one. With the amount of money you're saving on this job, it's worth investing in good tools that you can use in future projects. Measure 3/4 inch from the lowest point on the ceiling and draw an upper rail line using one of the rails and a level. Repeat the process on the other cabinet walls if you have them like we do. This is where the laser level comes in real handy. Next, you want to find all the studs in the walls to attach the rails. In the United States, they're always 16 on center, but it's always good to check with the stud finder. Max tip: kitchens tend to have few outlets and switches around the cabinet area. Use them as a reference guide for where the studs are located because they're always attached to one either on the right or the left. Also, make sure that you're bringing these stud lines down to where you will mount the lower cabinet rails to avoid looking for them again in the future. With the studs all marked, we're moving on to measuring out the width of each cabinet on the wall and marking it to see where the rail should end so it's not visible from the side of the cabinet. I'm going to take a second here and sincerely apologize for having this tripod in the middle of the shot, blocking everything we're doing right now. As a new creator, sometimes I don't realize how things look to the audience. So if you still decide to subscribe, I promise to frame shots better in future videos. Thank you so much for your support. Now that we have everything marked out for the upper cabinets, let's finally move on to the rail. To attach the rail, we're using Spax number 8 multi-purpose 2-inch screws. They're rated for about 120 pounds of weight each, which should be enough to support the rail with all of the cabinets spread across 5 studs. But just to be safe, we're using a trick I learned from a fellow YouTuber, Home Renovation DIY, and adding a second screw to the bottom of the rail to double its load capacity. With both rails attached, it's time to start hanging all of the top cabinets. As we mentioned before, if you have a corner cabinet like us, you should always start there and work your way out to the sides. If not, begin with the sink cabinet and work your way out from there. As you can see, once the rails are up in place, these guys go up pretty quick. However, nothing ever goes exactly as planned. I noticed that only half of the left cabinet mount is catching on the rail on this last cabinet. That means we need to slightly shift the rail to the left to keep the cabinet from ever falling off the wall. Fortunately, this system makes it fairly simple. You simply remove all the cabinets, loosen all the screws, and shift the rail one hole over to the left. And with that, we can resume installation of all the cabinets. With the top cabinets complete, we can now install the bottom rails for the base cabinets. The procedure is very similar to that of the installation of the top rails. Begin by locating the highest point on the floor using the laser level, similar to what we did on the ceiling, and measure 32 3/16 inches up from the floor and draw a reference line for the bottom of the rail. Next, mark the locations of all the cabinets on the wall. With that out of the way, we're ready to mount the bottom rails. And because we marked where the studs were from the top to bottom in the beginning, we wouldn't have to look for them again. Look at us working smarter, not harder. Even though the rail mounting procedure for the bottom rails is identical, I do have a max tip. When installing the rails, start with the opposite ends and work your way into the middle. It makes it easier to handle this 7-foot long piece. With the rails installed, let's install the bottom cabinets. These guys are different in that they use a foot system that sits underneath the cabinets to support the weight of the countertop. The instructions make it abundantly clear that this system is extremely fragile and must be handled with extreme care. The feet come in a pack of 4. The pack includes the leg with the bottom cap, a rein that expands the bottom of the leg to increase the support area, and a threaded insert that allows the leg to be adjusted in height. The threaded insert has a small stopper that indicates the maximum height of the leg required for a decoration panel to fit underneath the cabinet. Be careful not to break it. Max tip: if the leg does not fit under the cabinet at the stopper level, double check your rail height, ensuring it's not too low on the wall. Finally, the pack includes a plate that fits into the pre-drilled holes in the cabinet bottom. Begin by installing the plates under the cabinet, and to avoid breaking the feet, hang the cabinet on the wall first, and then attach all the feet underneath, setting it to the height so they're touching the ground. Now they can be used to level the base cabinets before installing the countertop. We got a little ahead of ourselves and had to remove the left cabinet to make room on the left wall for the final rail that will hold the sink cabinet. Again, the procedure is the same, so I won't bore you with the details. But as a final max tip, whenever you're putting screws into the wall around any pipes, be extremely cautious and do your best to avoid them. If you don't, things can quickly become very expensive very fast.
With the final rail in place, we can reinstall the right side cabinet. However, we will save the final sink cabinet mounting for another video. I want to go over it in detail because it requires some modification. I also promised the big guy all you can eat sushi dinner. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end. Please leave your feedback or questions in the comments below. I read all of them. Like, subscribe, hit the bell to be there for the next one. Take care of yourself, your family, and most importantly, have a great day.